Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 20th, 2022 City Council meeting, City of Los Banos. We will begin with the invocation with Charlie Rideout from the Word of Life Church.
Greetings, everyone, in Jesus' name. If we can bow our head, please. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you so much for life today. We thank you that we're able to come together this evening in unity. I thank you, Lord, for supplying this city with the resources that it needs. I thank you for just allowing us to have this possibility to come together and be able to discuss the things that our agenda has for today. Lord, we thank you so much for just every breath that we have, and we thank you for the peace of God that you supply that surpasses all understanding. Lord, I ask right now that you begin to bless this meeting, God, that you bless our mayor, that you bless every council member, that you begin to work through them, that you bless our officers, that you bless our first responders, and that you bless the people of Los Banos. Lord, we need your strength. We need your hand upon each agenda. We need to be able to work in unity and in peace. Lord, allow that to happen here in this meeting this evening, that the God of peace would be the source, and that we're able to address every issue for the welfare of the people. Lord, we know that we don't know everything and we don't have all the answers, but you can lead us to the right answers. You can lead us to the places that we need to go. So we ask you here this evening to lead this meeting and lead these people. We thank you so much once again. And Lord, we just fill this place with peace. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you very much. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:04 p.m. Police Chief Breezy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chief. Ms. Maloney, roll call, please.
Jones, Lambert, Lewis, Lamas, Faria.
Here. We have a quorum. Consideration of approval of the agenda, item 4. Chair will entertain a motion. Mr. Lambert.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Ms. Lewis?
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert, second by Councilmember Lewis, to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried unanimously. Go to a presentation now. I have a certificate of recognition for Sarah Sanchez, and she's a dispatch supervisor, City of Los Banos, Employee of the Month 2022. Sarah? Sarah. Thank you. This reads, Certificate of Recognition presented to Sarah Sanchez, Dispatch Supervisor, Los Banos Police Department, in recognition of your outstanding performance and dedicated service to the City of Los Banos, and for being named Employee of the Month for June 2022. Congratulations, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
You bet. We'll move on to item 6, public forum. Anyone would like to speak in the public forum? You have, members of the public may address the city council on any item of public interest that is within the jurisdiction of the city council. This includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items. Speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation. Detailed guidelines are posted on the council chamber information table. This time I'd like to invite the public to come forward to speak.
Hello. I live at the Los Banos Mobile Home Park on Pacheco. And the reason I'm here again, I know you guys are probably all thinking, oh my God, here comes a big mouth. I do have a big mouth, but I will defend what I know is right. That's why my mouth is big. The other day, there in the mobile home park where the homeless are at, one of the men was running around butt-ass naked. There were kids playing down the little lane from me. I could hear them laughing and playing. And that man was hoeing with a hoe. He was running around his tent naked. He didn't care who saw him. I don't know about you guys, but if you guys have grandkids or kids, nephews, nieces, I am so terrified. Like I had told you guys before, I was molested as a little girl. I am terrified that one of those homeless is going to molest one of our kids. That's not fair for the parents not to be able to let the kids play in their own yards. He didn't care. When the police went out there, like I told the officer, because he told me I'm going to go talk to him right now. When he was going to go out there, I told him, he's going to be dressed. He's going to look at you with this innocent little look on his face. I wouldn't do that, sir. Bullshit. I'm sorry, I know I cussed, but it's irritating. We have tried everything. We've come in here time after time, all of us, to tell you guys about what's happening. This week, Monday night, they started a fire out there, a warming fire. The fire started spreading. You could see it going to the sides, burning the grass. I called the police, 911. I have to give the firemen props. They came out quick and turned it off. Within 2 hours later, they came over there by where my mobile home is at, where the city put barriers so they can't go through with the cars. Somebody came and threw wood there, a truckload of pieces of wood. The homeless started a fire right there. That's not safe for us. A lot of us have breathing problems. There's people that are disabled that can't move out of their beds. If their mobile homes catch on fire, they're gone. I don't want you guys to one day wake up and say, I don't know if you guys remember this saying from the old days, woulda, coulda, shoulda. You're going to say, in your conscience, you're going to say, we would have done something if we could. I'm just so frustrated because I don't know what to do anymore. My friends don't deserve to be afraid to come home and from somewhere. If we go to church or whatever, I go to church every day. You think I'm not scared to go home, especially after I've heard that some of the homeless go into the mobile homes when the people are in there. One of these days, they're going to get hurt, or a kid is going to get molested and killed or whatever. That's not fair to us to have to worry like that day after day after day. You guys need to open your minds and your heads and your ears and hear what we're saying. Not just sit there looking at me like, oh man, I wish she hurries up and shuts up. No, listen to us, really listen. If it was your families, you wouldn't be sitting there so calmly. You would be out there trying to do something. You guys, please help us. like I told you last time, I'll get on my knees if you guys need me to. We need help.
We have,
We-
we have a half a minute.
Huh?
You have 30 seconds.
Oh, well, you guys, sorry, I'm gonna say something. Take your heads out of your ass and listen to us.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in public forum?
Hello, my name is Thomas. I'm her neighbor. I took these pictures this morning, and this was after the city works came and spent hours and hours upon hours of cleaning up all the trash. Dumping nothing but trash and wood. How many of you would like this in your backyard? I'm asking. I'd like to see your hands. None? I think we understand each other. Would you please do something about the homeless encampment behind the mobile home park on 2151 East Pacheco? I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chandra Lewis. I'm the assistant manager at Rancho Los Banos Mobile Home Park in Los Banos. And I received this message Saturday at 10:44 p.m. on my cell phone. I got garbage coming through my backyard again, and specifically a person, and they sent me a video. If it happens again, I will put them down in the ground. This is what our tenants are feeling. They're ready to put them down because they're being invaded. I don't want my tenant to harm a homeless person, even though they are invading their lots, their driveways, their property. They're stealing from us. This person was very upset, and I did have to talk to them and calm them down. And on the same night, and I got this on Sunday morning though, but it was Saturday night. Let me find. And this person was in the middle of the park that had this problem. This person is in the first pad of mobile homes. And he said to me, "Good afternoon, Chandra. I just want to let you know that somebody tried to open my car last night. I noticed in the morning that part of the plastic handle was missing, exposing the key entry. Nothing was taken or damaged except the small plastic part. Thank you." And he did report it, and he reported to Officer Greco. So we are dealing with these homeless people walking through our spaces. If they stayed in their encampment would be one thing, but they don't stay in their encampment. They don't stay in the confined area of that was made by the city for them. They're in the middle of the field, and it's growing. Again, in the middle of the field. They start fires. I, for one, have asthma. They don't burn coals, they're supposed to burn. They burn anything that they can. And it will smell. And there's times that I have gone to look for a house on fire to find that it's them burning stuff that is not legal. But that isn't remedied. So they don't follow the rules. And I'm afraid, like this gentleman said, I'm going to put them down in the ground, that one of these days somebody is going to get hurt. Either we will be getting hurt, we will be hurt by the homeless, or the homeless will trespass against somebody and take advantage of them, and they will be the ones getting hurt. So it's not a good situation. You are putting us in a place of harm, and you're putting your homeless in a place of harm, as you can tell by this gentleman that has spoke this. So, and I just appreciate more follow-up on this and to see what you can do for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Lawrence. I live at 232 West 20th Street. West J Street. I'm sorry, I had 20th Street in Merced. I haven't been here for a while because I was in a mission house because I collapsed on Main Street. I was homeless the first time due to divorce. I was homeless the second time because my fiance died in the house I was in. I know about the homeless attacking because I was raped by massive homeless in my home. I was behind the Taco Bell in a tent, and we had machetes and everything else. But because I'm a missionary, I have to forgive. And I came to the conclusion that there needs to be a shelter. There's a shelter in Merced, but these people from Los Banos don't want to go to Merced. And it takes a homeless person to know what a homeless person needs. And I'm no longer the president of my business because Jim Reyes is now because I've got tumor in the pancreas. But we have came up with an idea, and I had already talked to the city manager about it, but he's no longer here. So it's a metal building that goes around like this, and all of the seats are metal. And the problem is some of these homeless people are given stuff that are plastic, and they were burning it. The cardboard that they get from the garbage from the places they were burning, and they were burning the little car magazines. But some people would get the wood that's extra from the construction around town. But the biggest problem was the plastic that was given to them. And if they had a place to go, like I'm trying to do, it's all metal, and we can have FFA. I've already talked to them. They will weld stuff, everything. And I got the college that's involved too. And what we're doing is we're going to take this to the next step where they build their own tiny house. And I've already talked to Lane Mitchell, and I think that on Ward Road and 152 would be the best place for the tiny houses. You have people that are above Lane and on both sides that were in a fire on the other side. There's families in there. They shouldn't be over a bar. They should be in a tiny house that they build themselves. Me and my mom and my brothers and sisters built my mother's house on D Street. I know what I'm talking about. And if they build it themselves, they're going to take pride in it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Catherine Yulee, a resident of Los Banos. I would like to address the upcoming budget for the 22-23 year. In particular, the $1 million that is earmarked towards the animal shelter. While I am totally aware of the sorry state of the administrative offices at the shelter, I'm hoping that the city will make sure that all of the funds earmarked towards the shelter improvements will go towards housing the animals themselves rather than the administrative buildings. Until we get our shelter up to the standards that it needs to be for a city of almost 50,000 people, at this time it would not be prudent to put any of the expenditures towards the administrative buildings when the animals are really inadequately cared for at this time. I know it's not the staff, it is the facilities themselves. And that's all. I just respectively ask that you all just really take that into consideration when we start having plans drawn up and, preliminary plans and what we're going to be doing with the shelter. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Joe Barcelos, born and raised in Los Banos. I've been an educator in Los Banos for the last 32 years. I was unable to attend last week's meeting, but I would be remiss if I didn't come and speak on behalf of Josh Panero. I watched it over, so I was able to see everybody who spoke. I hope you did as well. And I hope you noticed the diversity of those individuals who spoke on Josh's behalf. They used words like proactive, focused, leader, accessible, respectful, accommodating, caring, pro-business, passionate, involved, mature, a networker. He excelled, just to name a few. I teach government, and Josh was a student of mine back in the day, and we could not be on farther ends of the political spectrum, which led to some very lively discussions between the two of us, which a lot we ended on just agreeing to disagree. But we respected each other. We respected each other's opinions, and we maintained a relationship over the years. When Josh got the job as city manager, I couldn't have been happier. We finally have somebody who was born in this town, raised in the town, knew what the town was like back in the day when you can run around and, home before dark and all that good stuff. And he was changing things. And he had my ear, and he had a lot of people's ears. But he would always tell me, man, I don't like it when I hear that's the way things have always been done. He goes, I don't get that. That's not a way to think. And I told him, I said, Josh, I said, sometimes you're just going to have to rattle some cages to get people to listen. And I guess boy, did he ever. We talked about the Brown Act, and I know people wanted to know what really happened. And, the Brown Act, passed in 1953 is something that's pretty easy to hide behind when you really have nothing to say. I want to read you a piece of that. The people of this state do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. The people in delegated authority do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that they may retain control over the instruments they have created. And I believe the people have spoken. I believe the people will continue to speak. I believe they will speak in November. Mr. Jones, Mr. Lambert, if you need anything at all, I'm a phone call away. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members, council members. I'm Anna McCauley, resident of Los Banos for 25 years. I only regret that I don't know Josh, like so many have spoken. But the few times that I've said hello to him and just had social chat, I thought he was quite a remarkable person. I didn't intend to address anything about Josh Panero's firing until I listened again to a prior finance office employee's comments made at the last council meeting. I believe she was one of several that has spoken about the ill will regarding several city department managers, such as city clerk, finance director, the city treasurer, and perhaps another one that was mentioned. Employees who leave their positions generally have a truer picture of what's wrong in their working environment and across city departments than a bunch of department managers who manage to stick together. I have seen this over my 32 years in the federal government. So I'm not talking about something that I have not seen. Employees see a lot more than managers recognize. These department managers have been around for years. I see your relationship as being a whole lot closer than a handshake, especially between you and the council. Although not accusing anyone of covering up, every one of these managers would know how the system works and any associated investigation and maybe how to answer. Yes, there are people who can cover up with a straight face. And you, Mr. Mayor, of all people on this council, should have been familiar with the bylaws, the city bylaws. The fact that you allowed any time to elapse between firing one city manager and having another person immediately available to be acting manager is inexcusable. You had all these closed sessions, and your you're talking about Josh's performance or whatever else, and all you could talk about was getting rid of him, and you knew the police department management was not available, as in prior cases, to fill your acting positions. I won't reiterate that whole mess of unfilled management positions, but there's no leeway in lapses in certain positions. Shame on you for being lax in being totally mindful of and enforcing the city bylaws. Don't bother to explain away your judgment. We've all had enough. And why is it that city business does business with spouses? Our city clerk's husband is an insurance agent. Is he the only one in town that can write an insurance policy for the city? And why are we hiring one family member after another after another? Have you no larger scope than this? Coziness doesn't fall too far from your tree. You created a monster when people cover for each other. Mr. Mayor, and I say this for all of you, as people, I will always be respectful and say hi to you on the street. But when we're talking about positions, you've lost confidence in this town since Josh has been fired. You've been on this dais way too long. It's time you pull out and not run again. This town has lost opportunity after opportunity to be further along in so many aspects. And you've been part of that good old boy network who hasn't pushed for advancement, all soft talk, but no evidence. You were proactive. If you were proactive, so many years on this council would have had something to show for it. Another concern, it's nice to have competition in our races. But have we no litmus test for who can run or who should not run? Your competitor, Paul Yanis, was a Union Police Department president the first time he ran. I wasn't aware of this, but, wouldn't there be a conflict of interest? He recently resigned from that position, so it's a non-issue now. But going forward,
1 minute.
Isn't there a litmus test to ensure no conflict of interest in people running for these positions? He has good ideas to advance this town. Fresh faces and new ideas and fresh energy are what we need throughout the council, the management positions, and enough of this nepotism. City clerk, you should also resign. I understand you're an IT manager doing off hours. Is that to pay you more bucks on top of your max salary? Too many hats and a master of all of them? We don't think so. We've got too many are too cozy and seem to run the show as they see fit. Voters out there, unless you see fresh names on the ballot, just leave those other names unmarked. Attorney Vaughn, I think it's time you left this dais too. Not being attentive to the bylaws doesn't speak well for your position. Why are we cycling through
We're out of time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Christine Chavez. I'm the transit manager for the Merced County Association of Governments. I wanted to come before you today to let you know that we are in the process of collecting public comments on our short-range transit plan. It's a 5-year planning document that outlines the transit network for the county. We are accepting public comment through August 18th. The bus is actually starting the implementation of some of these recommendations in addition to some of the outstanding unmet transit needs. And so we're doing some updates to the routes M4, M7 in Merced, the L route into Livingston, the Los Banos route into Los Banos, and then the Planada routes. We're accepting public comment through tomorrow at our governing board meeting, and changes are scheduled to take place on August 13th. That's a Saturday. So just specific to the Los Banos route, we're updating the timetable. You may recall we increased the frequency to Los Banos on the commuter route from Merced when we implemented the microtransit service. And so we have not seen the ridership that we were expecting. So rather than running the 3 buses, we're going to run 2. So we're switching to hour-and-a-half services between buses. And so you can visit mercedthebus.com for more information and additional details on both of those items or to comment on the services. And then the bus is offering free fares for general passengers This is going to be available the months of July, August, and September throughout Merced County. And so this...
Sorry. I
I'm
was trying to fix the mic. Go ahead.
Okay. This is going to be valid July, August through September. This is for general fare passengers. Usually Measure V is paying for our discounted fare passengers like senior veterans, disabled persons, or persons with disabilities. And so this will be for general fares through September. So that will be great. I hope everyone takes advantage of that. If you haven't tried the bus, please do. We're offering free fares. And then additionally, and that includes on the microbus. That's the on-demand services here in Los Banos. And so additionally, I wanted to share that YARTS is in full swing. I'm also the transit manager for YARTS. Those are the services that run into Yosemite. And so all Merced County and Mariposa County residents are eligible for free round-trip tickets on YARTS. So you can visit yarts.com for more information or visit our office in downtown Merced at 369 West 18th Street to get your free tickets on YARTS. So thank you for your time, and I hope to see you on the bus. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. I do have copies of my agenda here for if you guys want to review that afterwards. My name is Levi Fistori, and I'm here to talk to you guys about the Los Banos Animal Shelter. For context, I am the founder and president of a nonprofit called Feral Freedom Northern California. Our mission is to reduce euthanasia rates of cats and kittens in rural shelters in Northern California. I have experience as a veterinary assistant and have worked with various rescues and shelters in a medical capacity, most recently as the intake and animal care supervisor for Town Cats, which is a shelter that regularly has between 50 and 150 cats in their care. Since March of this year, I've been working almost exclusively with your animal shelter, and I've introduced a TNR program that has saved the lives of over 30 feral cats that otherwise would have been euthanized, as well as rescued or helped rescue over 200 cats and kittens since March. I tell you this just so that you know that the information I'm about to share comes from a deeply informed and invested opinion. At this current time, the animal shelter is managed by 2 animal control officers. These are police officers trained in code enforcement regarding animals. They, however, are not medical professionals trained in veterinary care or evaluation for the medical or behavioral needs of animals. As a result, there is a severe lack of medical care and attention at the shelter at this time. Right now, the intake policy is open intake, so they are required to take any animal that someone has brought. Unfortunately, without the medical background, there is no intake examination, so animals are not evaluated for injury or illness before they are taken into the shelter. Neither are they vaccinated against potential illnesses that they will be exposed to in the shelter. That means you can take a healthy puppy, take him into the shelter where he can then be exposed to parvovirus, which, if you know anything about animals, is the #1 killer of puppies and is easily preventable by general vaccines. So on to that effect, there is a budget of $1,000 per year for medical expenses, as there is no direct contract with a vet or veterinary clinic. $1,000 a year for veterinary, if any of you have pets, know how little that's going to get you at a medical clinic, even with the shelter discount. The result is that animals sit in the shelter for their 3 to 10 days with injuries and illnesses that are not treated unless a rescue takes them or they're euthanized at the end of their 10 days. Rescues, we see that these animals are in the shelter and we take it upon ourselves to get them to the vet even without us rescuing them to make sure that they're not sitting in the shelters injured. Myself included, I have spent over $2,000 in the past 6 months on cats requiring medical care, regardless of whether or not my rescue actually takes them. I have some examples here of that you see on this paperwork. You also get an email with this information. Just this week, we had a cat 22780, which was a young adult cat brought in as a stray. They failed to notice that she was a nursing mother who was without her kittens, and she became so engorged with milk that her mammary glands actually burst in the shelter, and she was left with an open wound inside of the shelter. We also had a kitten that we rescued on Monday that was in the shelter for 5 days, and immediately after rescue, we noticed he wasn't walking correctly. We got him to the vet, and $600 later, we discovered he had a broken pelvis. So he was in the shelter with no pain medication or medical care until he was rescued. We also had another cat who was brought into the shelter by someone who witnessed her get hit by a car. She received no medical treatment and sat at the shelter for 3 days until we got her to the vet. There was a cat with a severe eye injury that we believe was an acid attack, and they had to ask for rescues to help pay for the medical bills on that one. And lastly, obviously there are more examples, but there was a distressed mother brought in with young kittens about a week old. She became so distressed at the shelter that over the weekend she actually killed and ate one of her babies, and nobody noticed until she was rescued and we found the remains inside of her kennel. So my recommendation is that we need to address this immediately. The animal control officers are at their wits' end. Like they have so much to do just as animal control officers. They cannot be expected to properly manage a shelter. So I recommend that you change from an open intake to a closed intake. If you cannot care for sick animals, you should not be accepting them, or that you allocate funds or personnel to train or bring in a veterinary, find a clinic, etc. Yes, so that is all. As I said, I have copies. My information is available on top of it if you guys would like to discuss further.
If you'd like to give the copies to the city clerk, she can get them to the council. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Kathy Ballard from the city of Los Banos. On item number 9, it doesn't say that there is an open forum. So I had a question here, and hopefully when you go to that item, it could be in the answers. I didn't understand why we didn't go, we're choosing from 3 different ones. When we first went out to hire for a city manager, we went through a consulting firm. I can't remember the whole name, but I know there was Murray in it somewhere. I tried to look it up, but I wasn't able to find it. What I don't understand is that their contract, if I remember correctly, said that if someone didn't make it a full year, that they would go ahead and post it again to get another city manager to replace the one that didn't make it a year. So I don't understand why we're not going back to that firm in regards to finding a new city manager. And that's the only question I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I also have, oops, sorry about that, some handouts for each of you.
To the clerk, city clerk, please.
Once again, I've prepared my notes because I know my time is limited. First of all, thank you. Good evening, council, mayor, and interim city manager. Welcome. My name is Nancy Klein, and I'm glad to return tonight. I attended the city council meeting back on June 15th. Hopefully, some of you remember. I'm here to discuss the Los Banos Animal Shelter, its current state of affairs, needs, and solutions. Just a recap for those who weren't here. A little bit about my background. I've been in animal welfare for nearly a decade. I've done work at shelters throughout Northern California for canine evaluation, placement, transport logistics with dozens of 501c3 rescues throughout the Pacific Northwest. I've provided operational recommendations based on national sheltering standards and attend numerous shelter board meetings, citizen advisory committees, and city council meetings like I am this evening. A little bit of context, again, I've been coming to the Los Banos shelter now for over a year. Came apprised of the shelter in a particular need, and I kind of stuck to help find placements for animals here at the shelter. Last meeting, we talked a little bit more of a high level. I want to give you some granular needs today. This by no means is an end list, but considering the limited time. So one thing I'm going to talk about are the shelter days and hours of operations. So for the longest time, the shelter's been open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And most recently, that was changed even more abbreviated to 8:30 to 4:30. So I'm not sure what the reason was for those change of hours, other than for the benefit of staff, when the community is really the recipient of the shelter. The shelter is also not open on Saturdays or the weekend at all. Most all of us are where during the week at work. Where are we on the weekends available? And that's when animals most likely can be reclaimed or adopted or whatnot. So again, I want to talk about those hours. Most recently, we had the 4th of July holiday, great fun holiday. It's also the busiest time of year for animals, period. We hear the fireworks, we see them, dogs jump fences, escape, they're scared, shelters get flooded this time of the year. Unfortunately, knowing we only have 2 staff members, one was granted vacation for a week during the 4th of July. Not really the best time. In addition, staff leave early when they're working alone. So for an example, one staff member was off-site at some training. That left another staff member to handle everything themselves at the shelter. They did not have someone to cover for them to go to lunch, so they left an hour early today at 3:30. If you are racing home from over the hill to get to the shelter because they close at 4:30 and you arrive at 3:30 and everybody went home for the day, not really great. Dual staff calls, so if a staff need to go out on calls together, once again, that leaves no one at the shelter. No idea if there is shelter staff that day or what have you. So again, shelter operations need to be beneficial to the public. The new shelter. So I know we talked about a little bit in the last meeting, the budget. There's some funds available this time around to bring a consultant in and take a look at what a new shelter might look like. I'm curious to know what the plan, timelines, and tasks are around that and where I can find that information.
We have 1 minute.
Thank you. Additionally, right now, the shelter needs some repairs and enhancements in a big way. I'm going to ask each of you, when has the last time you've been and walked through the shelter, including the office? It's not pretty. It's not pretty for the public. Lastly, and I'll wrap here, the shelter website, I brought this up in last meeting, I brought this up in March, has not been updated since 2018. The shelter operation hours are way out of line, they're not correct. The city most recently was refunded vouchers for spay and neuter as of July 1. That's not on the website, it's not on the shelter page. There's no communication. Last week, I sponsored adoptions for free at the shelter. My partner Levi, who I brought on board in March, is now sponsoring spay and neuter opportunities for members of the public, which we also had put on the shelter page. Finally, I want to thank you for your time, and I've also included some statistics that are inaccurate. So, sorry I didn't get a chance to talk about that, but the notes are on the document.
Anyone else like to speak in public forum?
I'm Elaine Corey, and I'm not here to bash you. I'm just here to tell you I'm disappointed in you. It seems a shame that you would let personalities and ego cloud your judgment. If you wanted to fire Josh, why did you not have a backup plan? You had plenty of leftover candidates. You should have had somebody in place. But you didn't go there. You left the city hanging for 3 weeks. That's not how you do business. And when you hired Josh, you knew he had no government experience. You knew all he had was corporate experience. So you wanted something different. So you picked him. But then you turned on him. I believe you thought because he was young and lacked any government experience, you could mold him and teach him and control him to be your rubber stamp, which you wanted him to be. But it didn't turn out that way. He had ideas of his own, and I think he was too aggressive and moved way too fast for you. You weren't ready for that. If you wanted the same thing, you should have hired somebody that had prior business experience. Then you would have been happy because you would have had the same thing you've always had. Nothing would have changed. So I think you really need to pay more attention because you cost the city money. You're costing more money for the interim man. You're going to cost more money for a headhunter to replace him, and none of it was thought out. If he was so bad and needed to be replaced, you should have had your ducks in a row and been ready to go from day one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and council members, I just got, my name's Mike Hughes. I've been here for about 50 years now. And I just got one little tiny question to ask. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, the question's to you. Why do you have that timer running thing up there on the wall, and every time it gets to 15 minutes, you tell the people their time's over? If you're going to have that, you should follow it. See it? It's right on the bottom of that deal. People had 15 minutes left, you tell them, they're 15 seconds left, you tell them their time's up. You need to be cognizant of what you're doing. Because if you tell somebody they got 5 minutes, give them the 5 minutes. Don't be interrupting them, telling them their time's up. And by the way, you still don't return your phone calls.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in the public forum? Seeing no one, we will close the public forum. Move on to consideration, approval, consent agenda. Oh, sorry. Got to move on. Yes. At this time, Ms. Maloney, do we have any written comments?
Yes, I do. Hello, Ms. Maloney. Could you please read this email during the next city council meeting? Thank you. The officials. My name is Casey Miller, and I am the park operator at Rancho Los Banos Mobile Home Park. As you are aware, our community has been dealing with the disgusting homeless camp behind our property for over 2 years now. Yes, over 2 years. We have all the documentation on what our residents have had to endure since I have personally kept everyone informed of the dozens and dozens of problems we have faced. We were told to go to the city council meetings to get something done. Well, we have been doing that and nothing has been done to remove them from your property. At this point, we feel that you are just trying to sweep this ongoing issue under the rug and giving all of our tenants false hopes that the city will actually take care of this nuisance. The last time I emailed the city council members was on May 18th, 2022, 2 months ago. I explained that our children should be able to go outside and play. Our elderly and disabled tenants should feel safe in where they live and be able to walk outside when they want. Our female tenants shouldn't have to carry pepper spray when they go outside. Grandparents shouldn't have to first patrol an area for hypodermic needles and human feces before their grandkids go outside. People shouldn't have to sell their homes that they have lived in for decades because they no longer feel secure. Tenants should not have to continually watch outside to make sure the fires in the homeless camp don't spread to our park and homes. Our residents should be able to actually sleep during the night instead of continually being woken up by arguments, loud music, and drum playing. Our tenants shouldn't have to lose their valuables and belongings to theft, and I shouldn't have to raise our space rent exorbitantly to pay for our increased legal, administrative, and repair costs. And do you realize that if I have to increase the space rent, that some of our tenants may not be able to afford living here any longer? And since I am actually the cheapest rent in Los Banos, that then those tenants could very well be homeless themselves. This would be adding to your homeless population because the city did not remedy the issue already on hand. Do our tenants have to start arming themselves and shoot their thieves or intruders? Don't we have enough gun violence in the world already? What are we supposed to do? I wrote that email truly believing that the city would do the right thing, yet here I am 2 months later making the same argument, pleading the same case. I've really only had one council member reach out to us with intentions to actually solve these problems. Thank you, Mr. Lamas. It's ridiculous that this camp hasn't been moved yet. It's ridiculous that you expect our hardworking, tax-paying, voting residents to endure this unacceptable, inappropriate behavior. And I guarantee you that if this camp was by any of your homes, you would make sure that it got moved, and you certainly wouldn't have put up with it for over 2 years. Since my last email 2 months ago, we have still had to endure continuous problems. On May 20th, we had to contact the police department because the homeless dumped a bunch of garbage over our fence. On May 26th, there was another fire in the camp. Later that day, there was an explosion in the camp, and then a homeless man tried to break into one of our residents' homes. On June 3rd, there was another fire. On June 5th, there were 2 more trespassers in the park. On July 1st, we had to call the police department because of the loud music again. On July 4th, another fire. On July 12th, a naked man was running around the camp. Our resident children were playing outside and saw this deviant behavior. On July 16th, another fire. On July 18th, another fire. On July 19th, another fire. Then later, more arguing, which resulted in our tenants not being able to sleep. Many of our residents are having increased issues with mice and cockroaches due to the unsanitary conditions of the camp. These are only the incidents I have been made aware of. I can guarantee you that there are others I don't know about. I want to make this abundantly clear, so please hear me. I am putting this on the formal record with you tonight that we will hold the city responsible for any further issues we have with the homeless. The city is completely negligent at this point. You are placing our tenants at risk as well as our park. It will only be a matter of time before those fire embers travel over our park and catch homes on fire. All 104 homeowners and 400 plus residents will hold the city responsible. Our park will hold the city responsible. We are talking about millions of dollars in settlements here. So let's be clear that the city is on the hook. We are sick and tired of you doing nothing and placing our community in danger. Yes, we are angry. Can you blame us? Do the right thing. You know something would have been done long ago if it was by your home or your loved ones' homes. Please stop sweeping this under the rug. We are sick of it and shouldn't have to beg you to do what is necessary. Thank you for your time, Casey Miller. Mayor and City Council, my name is Susan Castillo, and I'm a third-generation Los Banos resident since birth. I have known Josh Pinero for over 15 years. I have seen him excel in education, sports, and become manager of our local foster freeze at age 17 while attending high school. He's mature, very well educated, and a man of integrity, principles, and morals. The former city employee that shared her work experience within her department and certain city employees gives us clarification of Josh Pinero firing. It's obvious that did you not think this action through, but rather acted on emotions fueled by insecure, hostile employees. The firing of Josh Pinero is very absurd and upsets me. Mayor Deborah Williams, Refugio Lamas, have made a terrible mistake of firing him. You three need to resign immediately or recall needs to be started to remove you. Josh Pinero has been disrespected, slandered, and wrongfully terminated. On the night of January 6, 2022, my only son was shot and lay dying in my arms in the middle of Dove Street. Immediately, PD notified Josh Pinero. Within minutes, Josh Pinero was at my daughter's side, comforting us until our family and clergy arrived. Josh stayed at the scene and continually checked on us until my son was transported to Modesto Hospital. He checked with our clergy to make sure we had transportation to Modesto. To this day, none of you three have reached out to me or my family, but LB City Manager Josh Pinero left his warm home, dinner, or family time to be with me at a tragic time of my life. This is a man of integrity, a man who cares about his city, the residents of Los Banos. He didn't have to be at the scene, nor is it his job, but he chose to. We finally have a city manager that cares and made a lot of progress in a short period of time. Josh Pinero needs to be brought back to work as our city manager ASAP. You have wasted taxpayer money by paying an agency and an interim manager. LB does not have time nor money to waste. Signed, Susan. My name is Karen Carter, and I'm 76 years old. I'm second generation born, raised in LB, and have lived here all my life. I've known Josh Pinero for over 15 years. I've seen him excel in academics, employment, and as an entrepreneur. Josh has a passion for LB. He's a very intelligent young man who has achieved more than some his age. I feel he was disrespected and wrongfully terminated by the mayor, Deborah Williams, and Refugio Lamas. The three of you were caught up in the toxic behavior attitude of the office staff who were intimidated by Josh Pinero because of his vision for LB and was trying to find ways to save the city money. Now that has been thrown out the door because you three are spending double the amount to have an interim city manager. He was getting acquainted with staff in all departments of all the shifts. He would attend weekend city events to support the sponsors. He is always looking for ways to improve our city so we have a better image than just the bathrooms, as tourists refer to it. Our city parks were looking better and cleaner. The American flags hanging in the downtown area gave a feeling of pride. He did so much in a short time. Can you imagine how much better our city would be if he were able to fulfill his term of employment? You made a terrible mistake terminating him. Refugio acting foolish at Home Depot, yelling at Josh Pinero for no reason. That's harassment. Refugio, again, you were not thinking. You reacted emotionally, just the way you reacted by voting against Josh Pinero, because you also were manipulated by office staff who have a reputation of being troublemakers. You are not showing being of sound mind by acting out in public. You need to resign immediately, as well as the mayor and Deborah Williams. You three should be ashamed of yourself. LB is growing whether you like it or not. LB needs to be ready and equipped for the exodus of people coming in from the Bay. City Hall needs a facelift in operation and attitude. As for the fake Sharon Wilson letter full of lies, I wouldn't be surprised if Lucy Malone wrote it. Joss is a man of integrity and brings fresh, new vision for our rapidly growing city. On 7/6/22, this council chambers was full of residents of prominent status to speak up against the termination of Josh. All statements were spoken were true. All good deeds by Josh Pinero, no criticism. Josh isn't afraid to work and take on challenges. He's a hands-on type of leader. Bring back Josh Pinero and replace the three. Signed Karen. P.S. Thank you, Mr. Jones and Mr. Lambert, for being honest to LB citizens and exposing the truth. Dear Mayor and council members, I spoke at a recent council meeting on July 6, 2022. That evening, I informed you that I was a previous employee from the finance department and that I resigned earlier this year. As a reminder, that was the meeting when the council chamber was flooded with residents as well as city employees who were and continue to be in support of City Manager Pinero. I am reaching out again because I do not think that the mayor and some of the council members really heard us. I imagine that you have not seen the council chamber so crowded or heard such a loud outcry from the public in a long time. I hope that resonated with you and showed the depth of the mistake you made when choosing to fire City Manager Pinero. Unfortunately, rumors are circulating throughout the community which falsely states City Manager Pinero was fired due to a human resources related issue. The community believes this because Mayor Faria and Councilmember Lewis and Lamas are not disclosing the reasoning. Councilmember Jones and Lambert have publicly stated that the three of you made a spontaneous and emotional decision. I firmly believe that to be the case, especially considering that Los Banos was left without a city manager for any sort of 26 days after the firing. That tells us that the three of you did not have so much as a thorough plan as to what could come next. If there is anything that is taken away from this statement, it should be that there is simply not a human resources issue. Rather, the human resources director, elected city clerk, and the assistant city clerk, human resources analyst are the issue. Councilmember Lewis was concerned with the public getting information that was allegedly from closed sessions. Councilmember Lewis, I, along with other members of our community, find that rather interesting, considering you did not mention being upset or concerned regarding the letter from Sharon Wilson that wrongfully attacked City Manager Pinero. That letter actually did contain information that would only have been leaked from the Human Resources Department. Where is your anger and frustration with the letter from Sharon Wilson and with the staff from the Human Resources Department? Did you lack emotion regarding that letter because you know the name Sharon Wilson is a pseudonym and that the letter is from a city employee? Perhaps a city employee from the Human Resources Department and or the Finance Department. Councilmember Lamas wanted to try and move on as if the firing of City Manager Pinero was just a blip in time and that we could all move forward. Mayor Faria mentioned that he hoped everyone had a great 4th of July holiday, as if the many statements from the public that evening were not a significant importance. The city has faced many embarrassments, including multiple cases of embezzlement, numerous grievances against different department heads, and recently, many employees who have left due to the horrible culture that is only accepted but secreted from the Human Resources Department. Choosing to fire City Manager Pinero when he was not even employed for a full year, and then turning around to hiring an interim city manager at full rate is an outrageous waste of our tax dollars. It is a slap in the face to City Manager Pinero, and it is wrong. Before you consider candidates to fill the city manager role permanently, you need to give the public a fair chance to vote in November for a mayor, as well as council members that accurately represent the citizens of Los Banos. And it was unsigned. And those are all the comments that I received.
Thank you.
There's one more comment that was received on July 6th that was lost in spam. You emailed it to us on July 7th. It looks like it was received about 101 on July 6th.
That's true.
Did you read that one yet?
No?
It would be appropriate to read it now.
Okay, let
I
me
have a
go.
copy of it right here.
Okay. And I asked the city attorney what to do with that email, and he told me just to file it, so that's what I did. Dear Mayor and council members, I recently became aware that City Manager Josh Pinero was terminated by this city council in a 3-2 vote where Mayor Faria, Councilmember Lewis, and Councilmember Lamas voted to terminate Mr. Pinero without any public disclosure of their reasons. This has prompted some deserved scrutiny and public outcry in defense of the former city manager, and taxpayers deserve to hear why you three chose to ignore information you received by means of testimony and filed complaints from current and former employees. I read Councilmember Jones and Councilmember Lambert's response preceding the action that was taken behind closed doors. After finding out what I found out, thank you for standing for what's right. But I haven't heard any reports or answers from the remaining council members yet, so I decided to do my own research and interview some people who have firsthand information about what's been going on at City Hall. I personally know a few employees, and I've learned that there are a few toxic administrators at City Hall who constantly bully and harass their employees. The allegations are horrendous and appalling. The treatment is so terrible that some employees have developed health problems from stress. I also learned that Mr. Pinero was looking into some serious complaints that were filed against those administrators. It seems that the 3 council members who voted to terminate Mr. Pinero were aware of some of the issues going on at City Hall and decided to fire him before the investigation could be completed. The public needs and deserves to know why, so I am asking why. It seems that one of the awful administrators already resigned as the finance manager, but there is no guarantee that the others will resign or be disciplined for what they have done and are doing. The revolving door of new employees and those leaving their job after being treated so badly is just one of the signals that changed. That change needs to happen. City Hall isn't even open at lunchtime because they can't keep enough staff to keep the doors open. If the City Council has this information about the toxic administrators who terrorize their employees and they choose to do nothing about it, then I challenge the newspaper and any local reporters to dig much, much deeper. If I can find out the information that I did, then as experienced journalists, they can most likely learn a lot more than I have. Sincerely, Stan Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for bringing that to our attention. With that, I will close the public forum and move on to consideration of approval of the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be voted on in one motion unless removed from the consent agenda by a city council member. Ms. Maloney?
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 233821 through 234089 in the amount of $1,271,360.02. Minutes for the June 15th, 2022 City Council meeting. Minutes for the June 22nd, 2002 Special City Council meeting. Minutes for the June 28th, 2022 Special City Council meeting. City Council Resolution Number 6529, reauthorizing remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the City of Los Banos pursuant to provisions of AB 361. City Council Resolution Number 6530, awarding contracts for publication of legal notices, legal advertisements for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023, and authorizing and directing the interim city manager to execute agreements. City Council Resolution Number 6531, authorizing the interim city manager to file a regional surface transportation program exchange program fund claim for fiscal year 2021-22, and the items are to be approved as submitted.
Thank you. Any member of council want to pull any of the items for discussion or a separate vote? Ms. Lewis?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item F for discussion and a separate vote.
Item F for a separate vote. Very good. Any others? All right, seeing none, let's go straight to item F with Ms. Lewis. And this item is City Council Resolution Number 6530 and is handled by Human Resources Director Maloney. Ms. Maloney?
Yes.
Let me get your mic.
I'll take it. Yeah, I didn't have questions on the report, but I do have a concern in regards to the submittal by Merced Sunstar. And in their submittal for their proposal form, they indicated that online publication available at no additional cost, and their answer was yes. However, if you go to the Merced Sunstar website, generally they will allow you to view one item, and after that review, if you try to review something else, then a message will come up with a cost of what you need to pay in order to access their online newspaper. And with that, it brings concern to me that when we do legal publications with them, that the purchaser, the city has access to that because I'm sure the city buys the publication, but anybody who needs to publish something legally may not be able to see that. When we publish something legally for a customer or someone that's filing something with the City of Los Banos, the public is not able to see it, neither is the council, nor is the person who is requesting the publication. So with that, I think it makes them ineligible because there's no public access on their website, and you're required to either purchase a website publication or to purchase their paper. So I think they need to be removed as consideration for this particular agenda item. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Mallon?
I think City Attorney Vaughn has something
Vaughn?
to say.
So the government code doesn't have a criteria as to who is eligible for legal publications other than they need to be adjudicated by the Superior Court in the county within which the publication is published. Merced Sun-Star is adjudicated as well as the West Side Express through the Dos Palos Sun-Star. Sun, is it? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Dos Palos Sun is adjudicated. In terms of their circulation, when we ask those questions as to whether they have paid circulation, online circulation, the numbers that we looked at were the paid for circulation, both print and online. So they have substantial, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they have substantial paid subscriptions on print and online. The question of whether it's free to view is really just one of that question was whether or not it was free for us as the city to post it on their online publication as well as have it posted on their printed publication. So the question wasn't aimed at who has access to it. That information, and the important part of that information is their actual overall circulation that is paid subscriptions. So that question was mainly geared at would it cost the city anything additional to have our legal notices published on their online publication in addition to their print publication. So our responsibility in terms of our public hearing notifications is that we publish it in a newspaper of general circulation within the boundaries of the city that has been adjudicated by the Superior Court. Both these newspapers have been adjudicated and are qualified to print legal publications. The reason staff is suggesting that you award two is that the Sun-Star is published on a daily basis. The West Side Express is published on a weekly basis. And there are those situations where we have to publish a public notice that a weekly may not be published in time for us to publish what we need to publish. So we wanted the flexibility of a daily newspaper as well as a weekly newspaper that's more geared for Los Banos and I think has a larger circulation than the Sun-Star. If you'll recall, our last publication was the Los Banos Enterprise, and when we had them as our official publication, we had access as well to the Merced Sun-Star. So we had the benefit of the weekly Los Banos Enterprise, plus we had the daily Sun-Star as part of our contract with McClatchy, I think it was. So that's the rationale for having two. I would caution the council to not have a daily newspaper available to publish our legal publications as are required because it could result in us not having able to do a public hearing in a timely way because we can't get it into the weekly on time. So that was the purpose. And it's really not geared to who has access. It's geared to what is their paid circulation was what we looked at. And are they adjudicated? And both those newspapers are adjudicated.
Okay, and I hear your statement, and I see the circulation for one paper is more than the other, which is right now West Side. I think the only issue that I had is that particular statement was not clear to me. And if this application process is for city use only, then somewhere in here, we need to indicate that.
I think the question, and I don't have it in front of me, was, is it free to have our notices posted in your online publication as well as your printed publication? And that's the intent of that question, so that we, as the customer, understand that we're getting publication in both a print media and a online media for no additional cost. And I think both those publications offer that.
Yes.
They offer no additional cost for our notice being published on their online. We're more concerned about their actual paper newspaper.
Okay. And again, my statement is that I was not clear that this proposal process was for the city only and not for the general public.
No, these are
So again, by it saying online publication available at no additional cost, then I would have, not knowing that it was for the city only, I would have requested that additional wording be to the city, to the city of Los Banos. But with this proposal form, from what you're saying, it's only for internal information for the city of Los Banos, then I understand.
We're only talking about legal advertisements that the city wants published themselves, that they're required to publish due to typically any public hearing is required to be published in a adjudicated newspaper within a certain period of time prior to that public hearing, as well as all of our ordinances are required to be published during a certain time after the ordinance is adopted and introduced. And so this publication is more for us to be able to publish those notices so it gets out to the public. We as a staff felt having the benefit of both these newspapers gives staff more flexibility to make sure those publications hit those newspapers at the right times.
Okay. Again, I understand all the legal jargon that you're saying, but you also indicated that, publishing this information is to get it out to the public. So if the public can't access it, and there's no free ability for them to look at it online, so, where does that leave the city? Or do we have any concern for that?
No. Once again, both newspapers are adjudicated as having a general circulation within the confines of the boundaries of the city of Los Banos through their print and through their online publication. The circulation numbers are numbers that are of interest to staff, just to make sure that we're not hiring a newspaper that has one newspaper to one customer. We want to have an idea of what their circulation is, whether it's paid or free. So, for instance, you don't get a free Sunstar, you have to pay a subscription for it. You don't get a free newspaper. I don't know about the West Side Express. Everybody charges a subscription for the paper newspaper as well as the online subscription.
Okay, well, and I'll accept your answer. I did go to both sites today. I was not able to access anything from Merced Sunstar in regards to their publication, but the other newspaper I was able to see where there were publications there.
Yeah,
so I will leave it at that. I just want to make sure that this did not include publication information to the public, because whoever, we do the legal filing for the public, but does the public have the ability to access that without payment to the paper to be able to see their publication? So that was my statement.
Mr. Lieb indicates that I misspoke in terms of his newspaper, apparently.
Mr. Lieb is here. Chair recognizes Mr. Lieb.
Thank you. What Councilmember Lewis is referring to is called a paywall. And a lot of websites are using paywalls so that you get 3 views. And then after the 3rd view, you're being asked to put in your credit card information to pay for access to that publication. If you are a paid subscriber to the print edition, it usually comes with the ability to read the newspaper online at no additional cost. However, with the West Side Express, there is no paywall. So the public can read the public notices online on our website, regardless of whether they have a paid subscription or not. Anyone can go to thewestsideexpress.com and read the content, and they will never get a window that says, please put in your credit card information. It is, the website portion is free. That's the difference.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Lewis? All right. You had requested a separate vote on that. Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, based on the information that our city attorney has given us, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 6530 as read by title.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if did we read that one in already?
No, you need to.
Okay, I'll read it in. City Council Resolution number 6530, awarding contracts for publication of legal notices, legal advertisement for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023, and authorizing and directing the interim city manager to execute agreement.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Do I have a second? Mr. Yamas?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that.
Thanks. I have a motion by Councilmember Lewis, second by Councilmember Yamas, to approve City Council Resolution number 6530 as read. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried unanimously. Now, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the remainder of the consent agenda? Mr. Lambert?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Do I have a second? Ms. Lewis?
Second the
Ms. Lewis?
motion.
Go ahead.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert, and a second by Councilmember Lewis to approve the remainder of the consent agenda minus item F. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, staff, for all the work on the consent agenda. Moving on to item 8. Consideration of adoption of City Council Resolution number 6532, approval of noise variance permit 2022-01 to allow construction associated with the Los Banos Police Station project to commence work prior to 7 a.m. Monday through Sunday at the location of 1111 G Street. For this item, we go to Community and Economic Development Director, Souza Elms. Ms. Elms?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So the proposal before you tonight, let's see. There we go. The proposal before you tonight is a request for a noise variance. And this is because the Los Banos Municipal Code requires a start time for all construction projects to commence at 7 a.m. and no sooner. That's Monday through Friday, and then no sooner than 8 a.m. Saturday through Sunday. Then during those periods of time after 7 a.m. and after 8 a.m., construction noise is exempt, but cannot start before those times. So the proposal before you today is a request for to commence construction noise prior to 7 a.m. Monday through Sunday, but Sunday only as needed to keep up with the construction timeline. And and it's proposed about 6 to 8 specific days, and that would only be prior to winterization of the building that they're proposing to pour concrete. This is Swinnerton, the contractor for the new police station project. That would be from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. That could vary whenever they can get the concrete material to the project site. And again, that would only be 6 or 8 days, specific days through that construction period. I also want to note that the Los Banos Courthouse project, which is located immediately adjacent to the new Los Banos Police Station, was granted a similar request in April of 2015. So the construction component of the Los Banos Police Station does consist of a concrete tilt-up building. It is single-story, but the walls, the fortified walls of the police station are concrete tilt-up. There is structural steel and extensive site work that is also a part of the construction of the new police department, and concrete and form work. And in order to mitigate heat exhaustion during the summer months, this is why this noise variance request has come forward. It's really to mitigate against that heat exhaustion during the summer months and the exposure to those high heat temperatures for those working under those circumstances. In addition to that, concrete that's poured in hot weather can lead to shrinkage, which is also cracking. This reduces the strength and integrity of the building, especially in important buildings such as our police station. We want to maintain the integrity and the strength of that building. So we do feel that this request is reasonable and necessary. The goal is to have the building enclosed, and that would be winterized by December 2022. So all that concrete work, the tilt-up walls, would be completed by December, and the building would be winterized by that time. So this is the location of the project site. It's 1111 G Street. It, as I stated, is located adjacent to the courthouse. The courthouse is to the east of the project site. The city corporation yard, that's where Public Works' corporation yard is located, is to the north of the project site. The project site is highlighted in green in the aerial in the PowerPoint. There's a fuel fleet, a petroleum distribution fleet located to the south of the project site. And there is existing commercial as well as vacant land to the north. So the findings, these are the findings that the municipal code requires in order to grant a variance. And the first finding is that the use of the property within the area affected by the noise, so we need to analyze those uses that would be affected. And the analysis, the response to this is that the nearest residential unit, which would be a sensitive receptor, is 400 feet away on G Street, and that this project site is surrounded by commercial development. The courthouse is a main buffer. It's a buffer, in this case, to any of those sensitive noise receptors, those sensitive uses that would be sensitive to those noise receptors. And then with the corporation yard to the north and the petroleum distribution use to the south, the project site is pretty insulated away from residential uses. The second finding is that there would be factors related to initiating and completing all remedial work. And there has been conditions of approval that have been incorporated to mitigate any of these effects. The third finding is that the age and useful life of the existing noise source. And this noise source would be temporary. It would only be during the construction of the Los Banos Police Station and would cease once the police station is complete. The fourth finding is that the general public interest, welfare, and safety would not be impacted. And the response to this is that the noise control will not infringe or inhabit the public interest, welfare, and safety of the surrounding area, as the construction noise will be temporary and will coincide with the construction of the police station. And the construction noise will cease, as previously stated, once the construction is completed. And then finding number 5 is that is a finding whether this noise source was in existence prior to December 4th, 1987, and no, so it is not exempt. And then the last finding is that the existence of the noise source prior to the existence of affected noise sensitive receivers. And as stated, this would be a temporary noise associated with the construction that commences with the construction of the police station and would cease once the construction is completed. So the Planning Commission held a public hearing, and that is required within the municipal code for a noise variance. It requires that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing, which they held on July 13th, and then they are to report, staff is to report that and provide a report to the council, but it's not required at the council level to be a public hearing. So the Planning Commission on July 13th recommended approval of the noise variance to the Los Banos City Council. So staff is recommending that the City Council consider adopting resolution number 6532, approving noise variance permit number 2022-01. And this is for the construction noise associated with the Los Banos Police Station. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions or comments or questions of Ms. Elms? Mr. Yamas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Elms. I appreciate that report. I know the Planning Commission had a public hearing on July 13th to inform the public of the variance. In addition to that, was there any outreach to the surrounding or possibly affected neighborhood?
No, not other than the public hearing notices that went to the 300-foot radius.
Okay.
Was individually mailed to them.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Any further questions of staff? No further question or comment. Chair will entertain a motion for consideration adopting City Council Resolution 6532. Do I have a motion? Mr. Jones.
Mayor, I'd like to adopt City Council Resolution number 6532 as submitted.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second? Mr. Yamas?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Jones, and a second by Councilmember Yamas to approve City Council Resolution number 6532 as read. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for the excellent presentation, Ms. Elms. Now we'll move on to item 9, consideration of the selection of an executive search firm to assist the City Council in the recruitment of a new city manager. For that, we go to Human Resources Director Maloney and Interim City Manager Wellman.
Thank you, Mayor. Direction was given to staff by the City Council to prepare and issue a request for proposals to qualified individuals and/or firms to assist the City Council in conducting this city manager recruitment. So the RFP was drafted up and it was circulated and it was also posted on the city's website. The city received 3 proposals from Coffin Associates. They're out of Berkeley, California. Pro Recruiters, they're out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the third is Sectaros Partners from Merced, California. So staff just needs to direction on how to proceed. There are a few options recommended for you. The City Council can review and discuss the proposals received from the 3 executive recruiting firms, or you can direct staff to schedule interviews either at an adjourned meeting, a special meeting, or the next regular meeting of the City Council with all of the 3 recruiting firms, or in the alternative, the City Council select a preferred group of less than all 3 to be interviewed. And the third alternative, the City Council could select one of the firms based upon the proposals received without conducting interviews and direct the interim city manager to enter into a professional service agreement with the selected firm. So we're here to answer any questions that you might have and would like direction on how to proceed.
Thank you, Ms. Maloney. Mr. Jones?
Yes, I see that we have Bob Murray and Associates received an RFP, and I remember 9 months ago specifically we stated we never wanted to use Bob Murray again because we didn't like the experience with them. I'm just wondering why we sent an RFP out to them.
I again checked with the city attorney and he told me to follow my practices that I do.
Okay. My recommendation.
And for the record, I didn't receive that from the council not to use them.
Okay. My recommendation is to bring all 3 forward at a regular scheduled meeting to interview or to hear them present.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Does anyone else on the council agree with Mr. Jones on that? Mr. Lambert?
Mr. Mayor, I'll agree with that.
Okay.
Bringing all 3.
Anyone on the council disagree with that? Ms. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I disagree with that. I read all of these proposals. The only one that, in my opinion, fit the criteria as with the other agencies that we used on the last recruiting would be the agency out of Berkeley, which is Coffin Association. They've given us a list of their successful recruitment. The other agencies did not. The one out of Merced did not provide that, neither did the agency out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I don't know that interviewing all these three would serve any purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we've heard from three council members. Mr. Yamas, you have some comments there?
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I've looked through the agenda report. Yes, there's a lot of information there, but I think in the interest of public disclosure, public participation, I think I would support Mr. Jones's request.
Thank you, Mr. Yamas. I agree with Mr. Yamas, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Lambert, and that we bring all three forward. And so Chair will entertain a motion to take that procedure and take that action. Mr. Jones?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to bring all three applicants forward or recruiters forward
Oops, sorry. There we go. Go ahead, continue. Microphone
to
system.
a future scheduled regular open meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. And Mr. Lambert?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. A motion by Councilmember Jones, a second by Councilmember Lambert to bring all three of the firms forward.
Mr. Mayor, can I just clarify which meeting?
At a future council meeting, we need a date certain. We want the next council meeting.
If
Mr.
they're
Jones?
available, so why don't we reach out to them first and find out when we can get them all three here?
Okay.
As soon as we can get all three.
Okay.
As soon as
Or we
possible.
can
One is
space
out
them
of,
out.
one is out of town, so,
Okay,
yeah. so-
very good. So yes, as soon as we can get
Okay.
them all on board for that, and motions on the table, quick. Any discussion? Ms. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That would be my discussion is one of the recruiters is out of the state of California. If you're talking about bringing them here to this meeting, that may present a problem to them. I don't know. But that's my statement on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then there was a question in the public forum regarding the search firm, and had to do with the guarantee. And that is if a council, with Murray and Associates, if council hired one of their recommended candidates, they would have provided search services for 1 year at no cost. Very good. So, Mr. Jones?
With the candidate that's out of state, they can probably do a video, and I think we can play it here since we're not really responding directly to them. We're just hearing what their sales pitch is.
Okay, then so wish to amend your motion? Or just?
Either or.
Because
Yeah.
they're all here, and virtually everybody's here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. So, with that, Cheryl, we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. So, we have 4-1 vote with Ms. Lewis dissenting. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you for all the work on researching the firms. Okay, item 9. Item 10, designation of a voting delegate and alternate for the 2022 League of California Studies Annual Conference and Expo being held September 7th through 9th in Long Beach, California. Usually the mayor is the voting, is usually the, and it's for that we'll go to Ms. Maloney, that's right.
Thank you, Mayor, for saying that. But usually it is the mayor and the mayor pro tem, but because you're not going, you'll have to select a voting delegate and then an alternate amongst those who are going.
Thank you very much. And I believe the whole council is going but me, correct? Is everyone going?
Yes.
Okay. So the mayor pro tem then would be the voting delegate, Mr. Lambert? Good with that? Very good. And since you're mayor pro tem, and so I would ask you if you would recommend the second voting delegate, the alternative. Yes.
I can recommend Councilmember Jones.
Very good. So Mayor Pro Tem Lambert, will be the voting member, and Councilmember Jones will be the alternate. And we need a motion. Who would like to make that motion? Mr. Lambert?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to designate.
One more time. Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to approve the designation of voting delegates and alternates to the 2022 League of California.
Very good. So it will be you and Mr. Jones. Do I have a second? Mr. Jones?
Mayor, I'll second that.
Thank you very much. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert, second Councilmember Jones, to appoint Mr. Lambert and as the voting member, and Mr. Jones as the alternate voting member for the annual conference and expo. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you for taking that on. Now we go to item 11, cancellation of the regular city council meeting scheduled for Wednesday, September 7th, due to council members attending the League of California Cities Conference in Long Beach, California, September 7th through 9, 2022. And I don't think we need a lot of discussion for that one. Chair will entertain a motion. Mr. Jones?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Try again, Mr. Yamas.
I'll second that, Mr.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Jones and a second by Councilmember Yamas. Cancel a regular city council meeting on September 7th, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried unanimously. Item 12, advisement of public notices. We have none today. City manager's report. We go to our interim city manager, Mr. Wellman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. First order of business would be to thank everyone on the dais for your welcoming support. As you know, it's been a busy week and a half so far. Plenty to do. I want to thank our department heads. I've had a chance to have a couple of meetings with them. The first one lasted much, much too long, and I owe everyone an apology. Closer to 4 hours. Is that correct? Just about? Yeah. That happens when you have a lot of items stacked up. We had another meeting today, and it was 2 hours. So we're headed in the right direction and being more businesslike from the acting city manager or interim city manager. I have had an opportunity to work closely with the chief of police, and to actually tour the site where the new police facility is going to be built. It's very exciting. I hope everybody feels the same way. I was over here many, many, many years ago with Chief Broderick in another facility. I see Mr. Hughes out there, and he's gone through a line of chiefs as well. And I've got to say that the fire area is, I think, in good shape. Commander Rena is our acting fire chief. And, this is like old home week, but I used to work with his dad. So, on and off, several years ago. That's probably accurate to say. So we've got a couple of younger than me, that's not saying anything, but our planning director and our Public Works Director. They're outstanding. And our Public Works Director took me around for a tour of all the projects currently being constructed, and some of those that have been constructed that need a little attention throughout the city. And I made notes, and we'll be following up on those. We had a meeting this morning, and Stacy and Neuron were both in attendance. We, as well as our esteemed city attorney, where we went over specific work items with the CCID, the past director, Chris White, and the current director, Jared Martin. And I felt very good about the meeting. I think we really discussed opening up some attitudinal perspective so that when we deal with language on the general plan, we're not just taking a look at land use or water or those circumstances that are in place that may need to be changed. So I think everybody's got a good open attitude, work collaboratively together as long as it's in the best interests of both parties. And Mr. Attorney, you may want to say something about that at this point. Probably not, but it was a good meeting. With that, I've had a chance to review the budget, not only the expenditures, but I signed a transmittal letter just yesterday. And I've got to say that as I was reading it over, I thought, this is pretty good. I could have written this. It was very much in a conservative spirit. It doesn't take anything for granted. It also doesn't paint an unusually bleak picture to encourage the council to take actions that it may not need to take. I think it's pretty much dead on, and you've got statistics there. As you know how the budget is set, you want to look back and see what was originally requested. You want to see what the council authorized, and then you want to see what was actually spent, not just for 1 year, but I like to see 5 years. But if you can see 3 years as your budget is currently constructed, you're much better off. You make better decisions. And I've got to say that, I'm pretty impressed with the way it's structured, okay? Now we get into the details of what was spent, what was budgeted, what has been carried forward over the last 5 years. And I think the city is in reasonably good shape from what I can see after my initial review. How's that? Is that safe enough? But I mean that. I mean, I don't say that lightly. The city, under the direction of the council and the mayor, from what I can see, has been pretty conservative in its approach. And I think that you have invested in those areas that will position the city to responsibly grow going forward. And that's what you need. I mean, it's been said that cities either grow or they die. I think that's a little overstatement, but you've certainly positioned the city, I think, to move ahead. Now, having said that, one of the areas that I am concerned about is the number of vacant positions. And I know both in police and fire, if you look at the average city, you will see the general fund budget is composed of, I'm going to say 65 to up to 80% that I have seen, police and fire. In other words, public protection is the main driver of costs, and it's also what we pay most attention to in terms of expenditures. It's not that simple either. You know, if I'm looking at Commander Rainier, because I just see the chief's head, but Commander, as we were talking the other day, when we're looking at staffing levels and you say we want, how many officers do we have currently hired? I'll refer to the chief because I don't want to leave you out of this. How many officers do we have currently? I'm sorry.
37.
37, okay. So that's pretty easy, isn't it? 37. Well, if we're at a smaller, 41, okay. My guess is that to fund I mean, if we're talking about a staffing level, for instance, of 10.0, meaning 10 officers, that's not that simple, because you understand that with working the shifts that they do, that to get one full-time equivalent is equal to 3, because you got to cover 24/7, right? So it's not that simple. Plus you add workers' compensation, on-the-job injury. When we, you know, the cops and the firefighters are always getting injured, and that's just the nature of the work. So they've got that. On the police side, you've got field training that's got to be done out there. You have a tremendous amount of time, well, I won't say standing around, but sometimes waiting for court. So you add all that together, and you've still got payments that have got to be made for those hours which are considered work. I'm gonna shut up here. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we need to, and in the past you'll need to continue to pay very close attention to your expenditures, and our department heads have been given that message, and from what I can see, they've been doing it. We've got some particular opportunities, I think, now. I won't go into detail, but thank you, Mr. Mayor, for a chance to summarize a bit. I'm sorry, you can see why my first meeting took so long. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wellman, for the presentation. Mr. Yamas, did you have something you want to say? No, that's an old, okay, very good. All right, so then we'll go to council reports. No, actually, I got to go to my report here. Merced County Association of Governments, we have Christine Chavez here tonight, and they're taking public comment now on the transportation aspect of MCAG. Tomorrow is MCAG meeting. There is an opening on the Measure V committee. We need to fill that. So please go online and apply, because we want to make sure we have a Los Banos person on that committee. They decide how the Measure V funding goes, and we want to keep those projects running forward. I want to make sure that Los Banos gets our fair share, since we put in a whole lot on the west side. Peninsula Clean Energy, their meeting is July 28th, public board meeting, 6:30 p.m. It's always the last Thursday of the month. You can go on PCE, Peninsula Clean Energy webpage, and find that. And that covers my report on those 3 items. So now we'll go to Mr. Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to first just start off with saying thank you for everyone coming out again. Also, I want to address some of the comments from the ladies from the trailer park. I want to assure them that I do believe that our chief and the police department are doing everything they can each day to work with, trying to keep up with the calls that they do get down there. They are not going unheard. I'm sure if there was other things that we can get to help out the situation, I'm sure we'll be the first ones to know from Chief. Other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor, right now.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. And then we'll go to Ms. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few things that I'd like to discuss tonight. Start off with the animal shelter. I know that the council has set aside $1 million to do some upgrades. I don't know that we made a decision at this point whether or not that's going to go directly to the animals or to construction. And hearing the testimony tonight, and I think we've all received emails from other rescue agencies out of the Bay Area that are trying to help us out, especially with the cats. We have an issue and a problem. I recently just donated over $300 of products, of calming products for the dogs by Dr. Marty, and that stuff's not cheap. I'm hoping that product, and this was well before the 4th of July. I'm hoping those products were given to the dogs so that it would help keep them calm, not only during the 4th of July, but also on a regular basis. In regards to hiring a consultant about a new shelter, we did that already. And historically, our city is known for spending a lot of money hiring consultants for the same thing over and over again, but nothing ever gets done. So with this $1 million that we have here, I don't want to use that money. I don't want to use that money to hire another consultant to tell us how many millions of dollars it's going to cost the city to build a new building. In regards to closed intake and open intake, I had never heard that term before, so thank you for the education. Apparently, we need to be doing closed intake by not allowing animals to come into the shelter who are injured, who may be sick. But historically, we've taken everything that we can take. And I don't know if there's a cutoff for when the shelter's full and we can't take any more, but we just keep taking them. I don't know what that process is in our city. But it sounds like, you know, we're kind of bordering some cruelty here, and I'm concerned about that. And believe me, I'm not a cat person. You know, I have allergies to cats. I've never loved cats, but it sounds pretty horrendous to me. So with that, I guess I'd like to see this $1 million be geared towards how we're going to upgrade the portion of the shelter where we are right now for the animals. You know, how do we make it more comfortable for them to be in that shelter? Do we need to bring in more kennels to accommodate them? Because we have outdoor kennels and we have indoor kennels. And I'm pretty sure the outdoor kennels can be overwhelming for animals in 105 heat. So I would just like to, you know, request that staff give us an update on maybe how we can start working on changing how we operate some things within our shelter in order to accommodate the animals that are there. And, you know, the hours of availability, we only have 2 officers, as it was indicated. They're not trained in examining animals when they come in. Their job is to go out, pick up animals, and bring them in. So we're really kind of behind the 8 ball here as far as our shelter operation is concerned. And so I would just like, for our acting city manager, I'd like to hear something from our staff as to how we're going to correct some of these problems regarding our animal shelter. We have the one group, as I said, we all received emails from this one group that's coming out of apparently the San Martin area that's trying to help us out. And I realize that perhaps monies for helping animals is not as prevalent as it used to be because people are trying to feed their families. They're trying to have enough gas to get to work. They have other priorities. But one of the things that I would like to see more in our community in regards to animals, not just cats, but dogs as well, is, education in our school systems so that we can begin to help our children understand to take the message home to their parents. That's how it works. It's that subliminal message over and over and over again to help them understand the importance of spay and neutering. And as far as how our process is concerned, we give vouchers to people to get their animals spayed and neutered to help them, but there's no guarantee that they'll actually do it. So we're sending animals out there that are not spayed and neutered, and people are breeding these animals, and when they can't sell them or get a few dollars for them, they end up disposing them in ways that are unhealthy for the animal, and I take issue with that. So I think we have a big task ahead of us in regards to our animal shelter and how we're operating. I think we've probably done the best we can under the circumstance, but times are changing and we need to change with the times to do something a bit better. We may not be as good as San Martin shelter. I know that they've had a new build out there, but if you want to compare that to what they do in the county versus the city of San Jose, you've got a mega population there and they're in trouble too. So, I know the email that we received made a comparison between the city of San Jose and the county of San Martin, but it's a big county, but it's a smaller population of what's being collected down there. So, I certainly would welcome any help from the community to help us, do a better job with our shelter and help us take better care of animals, but also not bringing animals in that are injured, diseased, and we just can't take care of them because we don't have the staff with the knowledge and we don't have anybody that's has that level of education that's on staff to do that for us. So we need some help. In regards to the homeless encampment, we've been listening to this for going on 2 months now, maybe longer. And I have to say, if I were in that situation, I'd probably be here every week myself. And at one time, we cleared that area out from the homeless being there. And then we put them back there just because the city owns that property without regards to the residents who live in that area. So, at this point, there's not a lot to say based on what we've heard. We have people who have health issues. Air quality is an issue. We live here in the valley. We have a lot of air issues in the Central Valley here. And burning illegal fires are burning illegal fires. We had one speaker come forth and talk about we just need to build more shelters. Well, I worked in the mental health system, and I know that everybody who is out there does not want to be sheltered. We have the Project Room Key right now. For those people who want to go in, we've helped them come in. But our biggest problem is we have people who are mentally ill out on the streets. They have no control of their thoughts, and you can't get them to go in. So just because you build a shelter, it doesn't mean that everybody out there will come into a shelter. They just will not. So at this point, I'd like to see if we can figure out where we're going to move this shelter someplace else, because to me, it's deplorable to intimidate one portion of our population and subject them to it. If we put it on the canal, we'd have everybody, this whole city hall would be filled up again with residents complaining about people, on the CCID canal encamped. But we've subjected these people twice now. We moved the homeless population from there, and now they're back again. And complaints of fire, complaints of needles from drugs. All of these things are things that anybody who would show up here at City Hall would have an issue with. So I don't know where we can move them, but I think it's time to consider moving them away from that residency, because obviously it's not working. And I don't think that these people need to be terrorized like this anymore. I think one question I have for our staff is to find out, if we can have a report as to how close we are to hiring a new fire chief for our fire department. If we've completed the interview process, if we're close to hiring, what's going on, if we can get a report to the city council where we are in that process. I think that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Ms.
For my
Lewis.
report. Thank you.
Mr. Yamas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple items. Yes, no particular order. The homeless, yes, the homeless, it's a terrible situation. Again, it's unfortunate these folks were not included in the decision-making process. These things were well known that were possibly going to happen because they've happened in other situations. I think that we need to consider other locations. We need to problem solve, and I think everything's on the table as far as trying to provide relief for these folks. Because again, nobody would want that in their front yard, and this is just literally yards from some of these folks' residences. So I would appreciate suggestions, information as to how we can address this. Again, it's a very difficult situation because we're mandated by the state. We have limitations, but I think that we need to begin the problem-solving process all over again. We owe these people at least that. The animal shelter. I think there's a wealth of knowledge out there. We have some SMEs, subject matter experts that spoke to us. They have a lot of experience, depth of experience. They have a very good understanding of our shelter because they spent the time there. They devoted the time, not only that, but their personal resources to try to improve that shelter. I would welcome a report. Maybe, I don't know if it's possible to have agendized or maybe have that information provided to our staff so that we have, again, these subject matter experts who have worked with the County of Santa Clara, worked with San Martin, worked with San Jose and other shelters, bring that wealth of knowledge, bring that lessons learned, along with our limitations, so we can try to come up with a solution to address these things. But again, it's about communicating, sharing ideas, and being willing to make some hard choices. So again, thank you very much for both of you for bringing that to my attention. That's what I appreciate the emails. Yes, when I came to that point where the poor cat had her mammary explode, that's just, again, that's only because we're so overwhelmed. It's not to our staff being heartless or anything like that. It's just they're processing. They're processing a lot of folks, processing a lot of, not folks, but animals, and it's just, it's a shame. So hopefully we can come together and figure out a better path forward. Lastly, I'd like to say that welcome aboard, Mr. Wellman. I appreciate you wanting to come out of retirement to help us out. There's a lot of projects that we'd like to do, a lot of dreams, hopes, and aspirations, because I think that Los Banos has got a bright future. And I think that you're going to be part of that process to help us along. I appreciate your emails. I appreciate you bringing us up to date with a lot of information to give us status of some of these departments and some of these items that you've brought to our attention. Again, that gives us a clear picture of what we can do, what we can't do, and what we can hope to do. So again, I thank you very much, and I look forward to learning and serving with you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I didn't have any comments until our interim city manager, Mr. Wellman, how you started talking about the budget and how pleased you were to hear how in order it was. And, I'm just happy that our former city manager, Josh Pinero, was part of making that happen. So that just really kind of made me happy to hear that. That someone with over 40 plus years of government experience agrees with some of the actions our former city manager did. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Yes, my report, the homeless situation's not falling on deaf ears. We are going to go after that, go after it aggressively with so many different challenges there, but not making excuses. We are working on it. The Boise versus Martin case has limited the city's actions, and we're doing all we can within our power to solve this problem. And it's going to be addressed as quickly as possible with whatever tools we have. Let's see. That's it for me tonight. Just remind everyone, go online and look up that Measure V. Measure V, we need somebody in Los Banos seat on that Measure V committee. With that, we'll go to the closed session item. Do we want to adjourn before we go in? No? Okay. Very good. Okay. So, item 16, closed session, public employee release, CalPERS Industrial Disability Retirement pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. And when we are done, we will return and report out. Thank you very much. So, let me get this together here. All right. We've come out of closed session, and we have a resolution in front of us for public employee release, CalPERS Industrial Disability Retirement, pursuant to Government Code, Section 54957. And do I need to read this?
Just the title.
And the title, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Los Banos concerning the industrial disability retirement of fire engineer Joshua Houdekemer. And that's going to be resolution number 6533. Do I have a motion? Ms. Lewis?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Yamas, I have a second from Mr. Yamas. So I have a motion from Ms. Lewis and a second from Mr. Yamas to approve City Council Resolution number 6533. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried unanimously. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Lambert?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Thanks. Do I have a second? Mr. Yamas?
Mayor, I'll second that.
Okay. A motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert, second by Councilmember Yamas to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried unanimously. Meeting adjourned at 8:27 p.m.